This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.
So, Ben Stevens, young Ben Stevens.
Not so young anymore.
In his 40s, I think, now. Is that right?
I am 42.
Jesus. Oh, you're older than Maddox.
Are we not? Yeah, we must be the same school year.
Oh, maybe. He's 41, he was saying last week. So,
yeah, I think we are. I think we're the same school year there.
Right. But I said to him last week, when I think of you guys, I still think you're in your early to mid 20s. You know, like it's just, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know why I think that, because I know I've got older.
We probably still feel like that anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
We're hiding from being 40.
So, obviously, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah, I mean, since I was 17, 18, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to Maddox about how I met him. His, I'll let you watch it on the episode. It's but as soon as I started talking about it, he's like, I know what you're going to talk about. I know this story. But yeah, the thing is, when we got to know each other, it's such a blur, because obviously, like, I went from being like a bedroom DJ to, like, literally in the December of '99, I was sort of getting ready, like, hang up the headphones. This is not going to happen. I played a couple of gigs. I played Birmingham a couple of times, and then, quite a few gigs around Sheffield just for friends and stuff. So I'm like, I've got to give this up. It's not going anywhere. And then Tom from Insomniacs messaged me, I think it was like over Christmas, New Year. And he's like, I'm in charge of Insomniacs now. I want you on. You're going to do the last Sunday in January. Last set, it was like perfect for me. But literally the next December, so December 2000, we launched Vicious Circle.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, just like in that 12-month period, went from being someone who's ready to give it up to then I'd done my first international gig. I'd been to Canada, and then started producing, and everybody had knocked the track back, kick it, like no one liked it. So then Vicious Circle was born. And when I was talking to Maddox last week, it kind of dawned. I'd never really thought about it before, but I think I used like Chris C as the reference. Like, let's say Chris C had licensed Kick It for Mohawk, Vicious Circle would never have happened.
Yeah.
It was only just because
later. Yeah,
well, maybe later, yeah. But then if it had not launched with Kick It, would it have been? Because I mean, with the royalty statements, even now, like Kick It is still probably the biggest selling, or second. Hostile maybe is the biggest.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, the reason I'm saying all this is that whole period, that sort of 2 or 3 years of starting to DJ and Vicious Circle and all that, I can't even remember how we met. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just such a blur. I just remember you being around, like a.
Well, I mean, the best bit about that is that when you're doing that, I'm still at school. So yeah, 1999. I'm in the last year of school, college. So doing doing my A levels, and I finished in 2000, and that's when I moved. Then September 2000 is when I moved to Leeds. So at that point, I was kind of going to, because I was brought up in the Midlands. Passion was the Emporium was where we were going all the time, because it was our.
Yeah, you're from Derby, aren't you?
Yeah, near where East Midlands Airport is.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were going to Passion all the time, and then they started Storm. So we went to the very first Storm that Fergie and Nick Lunn ran, and then that was us kind of turned all of our group of friends suddenly went, oh, Hard House is better than trance, isn't it? Let's go to this all the time.
Right.
And one of my best mates at the time worked on the bar at the Emporium. So what he'd do is he'd work at Passion, and then he'd come and pick me up from my mum and dad's house, and we'd go to Insomniacs. And
right, okay.
that's where I got to meet you. I just used to pester you about tunes, I think, really.
Right.
And that's where I would have first met you and got to know you, I think, there.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like as I'm saying, like back then, everybody was pestering about tracks, or
Oh, yeah.
like so. But I'll tell you what's funny is when I was watching your interview when you were on the Tidy Boys,
Yeah.
and they were saying about, and it's true. I don't know anyone that's got a bad word about Ben Stevens.
No, well, I don't know. Maybe Maria.
Maria, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, if you were pestering me about tracks, you obviously didn't. You weren't annoying about it.
Well, I probably wasn't chewing your ear off that much. I just remember that. I mean, when we started going to Insomniacs, so this was really like, it was probably like a year and a half after Insomniacs started, because I remember the big second birthday they did at the National Centre for Popular Music. That's when, that was the weekend I moved to Leeds. That event was. So
Right.
but we've been going for like, I don't know, probably a year before that.
Yeah, so that would have been 20. Sorry, I always put the 20 when it should be. It was 2001, wasn't it? So
Right.
they
Okay.
started in September 99, so that would have been
Yeah,
like
that's right.
September. Right. Okay. Yeah. What was the club that Insomniacs did where you used to, where you went downstairs? What was that one? And they had
There's the corporation.
corporation. That's what I'm
Corporation
trying to
was the
think.
one with the skate ramps in, and then
Yeah.
Europa that was opposite, Gatecrasher, that was upstairs.
Yeah.
Over the
Yeah,
road
yeah.
from the Republic. Yeah.
Yeah, Europa. I know Europa. Yeah, that's where I started. And then, but yeah, I was just trying to think because I was thinking about how, like when you're DJing, when you start, and I guess some DJs never get past a certain level. I know what kind of level you're at. Like you've got, like you think about the tracks that you're going to play, but then you get to a certain point where it's not about the tracks that you're playing; it's like the mixes that you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like and the reason I was thinking about corporate, even though I couldn't think of the name of the club, but I was thinking I was probably my most what's the word? Not inventive, let's say, during that time, which would
Okay.
have been probably like 3 or 4 years into playing at Insomniacs.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I can remember there's 3 mixes that I still would do today that people would come up and say, do that mix.
Okay.
And it was in that club where I would just think of it in the moment and then do it. One of the mixes is actually on the the Insomnia CD that I did
Yes.
with
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a mix that I thought to try in that club, and then I used to do it, and then because we did that digitally, like our Vicious Circle albums, we used to do live, didn't we?
Yeah.
But Tidy used to do them mixed on the thing, and that mix is in there. But Lee has it, and I never even picked up on it until it was too late. That the idea of that mix is I bring it in the breakdown, and then as it kicks back in, I bring it in.
Okay. Yeah.
But he didn't. He sort of faded it in later, so it kind of lost the impact. And like I
Right.
said, I
Yeah.
just never. But yeah, the like I know what you're like as a DJ. Like when you can sort of you've got that track and you've got that track, but then you can create another track with
Yeah.
the mix.
It's almost like the way that I kind of saw that you, especially, and maybe Justin Bourne and Andy Farley to an extent as well, but you and Justin did it quite a lot, is you'd almost mix tracks a bit like drum and bass DJs do, where they double drop them. So they'll, like you did exactly what you just said, mix through the breakdown and drop the bass into the next track as it drops. And it's about as intense as it possibly can be, isn't it? Because you've got, Hard House has got a lot of stuff going on in it. It's not minimal music really at all. So to do that, it just creates loads of energy with it. But yeah,
risky.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Super risky.
Well, yeah, it definitely is. But that's 100%. If you go and watch Andy C or any of the drum and bass DJs, that's how they mix, because it's just like full impact, but all the way through it. So it's really quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never really heard people doing it like that when we were growing up listening to trance and Hard House. If I think about going to Storm would be a great example. Nick Lunn was like the polar opposite. There'd just be a load of beats and things like
Beats,
that.
yeah.
A bit
Well,
like Ian would do that every now and then. He'd do that, wouldn't he? As a kind of part of what he was doing. But
well, it's actually it's quite a good thing to do if you are just doing those big power moves all the time, and then to just give it that little bit, so that when that next bass line comes in from nothing, it really,
100%, yeah.
So, but I remember, I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to offend anyone, but when I started at Insomniacs, and like I made a career of, I would turn up, play, and leave. Like I wasn't someone that would hang around for, like I remember someone saying to me once, "Well, what happens if you get there and all the other you're playing tracks people have played before?" And I'm like, "Well, I own Vicious Circle and I play 90% of my own stuff. So if they're doing what they should be doing, then none of this stuff has been played, because that's like you sort of earn the right to just turn up and play,
Yeah.
But yeah, hearing some people, like it didn't make any sense to me with just that just the dead beats for a minute, mix after mix after mix. I'm like, no. And
no,
my mate Ben,
it loses all the energy, doesn't it? If it's like all the time.
Ben, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, and he used to call it power DJing. That was the, like there's people that can mix, but then so that's why I think we always gelled, because
it was a very similar style, wasn't it? Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, and again, this is something I just picked up when you were talking to the Tidy Boys. So we really connected once I lost my license.
That's right. Yeah.
I need to correct you on something. I didn't lose my license. One second, I'm slipping out this. I didn't lose my license for getting caught speeding too many times.
Right.
I lost my license because I was doing 128 miles an hour on the M1.
There you go.
That's why I lost my license. So there was me. Remember the trophy to Mark Foster and Adam.
Yeah.
And what was Fozz's mate called? God. Anyway, whatever his name was, they were all asleep in the car, and I'm just trying to get home. So I'm tanking it. And then the next thing, and when the copper actually caught me, he's like, "Do you know how long it took me to catch up with you?" So that was not my finest moment. But yeah, if I'd not lost my license, we wouldn't be talking now.
That's it. It's funny how these things happen, isn't it? Because like I do believe in life you make your own luck, but there is a lot of just random stuff that happens. That if that hadn't have happened, would this have happened? Like you're saying, if you'd sign Kick It to Mohawk, then Vicious Circle didn't exist. I probably wouldn't be doing this now.
Yeah.
So it's
crazy. And I mean, I can trace things back even further than that. Like when, like I actually sat with Tom from Insomniacs when I came back in September, and I to say to him, mate, I don't think I ever thanked you for what you did, because in fact, me and Matt spoke about it on the very first episode of this podcast, where he kind of interviewed me, and I was saying about how, Tom would, when I first played the first gig I did, he paid me £50, and then we went to the pub afterwards, and he's like, "I want you back every week. Last set, it's yours every week." And then literally like 3 weeks later, he's like, "I'm going to pay you £100." And then a few weeks after that, "I'm paying you £200." And then he'd call me and say, "You've got a gig in Lincoln." In fact, I remember it was, Les Harris.
Yeah.
So it was, he'd contacted Tom, and, some people would be like Most Wanted, where no, they're ours. They're just playing for us.
Yeah.
But he'd just ring me up. "You've got a gig, £500, Lincoln in 4 weeks, Wednesday night." You didn't take anything. Like, I just got the fee, and just incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
But then the Insomniacs album was supposed to happen with Tidy. I don't know what happened between them, but I know, it went from Insomniacs to Insomnia. And I remember Andy Pickles contacted me and saying, yeah, we need to speak to you about this album. So I went in thinking, I'm getting the boot, because why would they put me on? Like, they've got all their own DJs, and they were setting up Tidy Management at the time. So I get into the office and I'm talking to him about the album. He's like, "We still want you to do it." I'm like, "Okay." And Tom's like, "Yeah, go for it. It's good for you." So I ended up doing it, and I went back in for another meeting, and they're still doing this Tidy Management, but no one's spoken to me. And when you say about make your own look,
Yeah.
and I just said to Andy, I said, "Why is it I'm doing this album, but I'm not, you've got Mark Gray, Jez and Charlie. I mean, they're all great DJs, but I feel like I'm at that sort of level." And they're like, "Well, you're exclusive with Barry." I'm like, "What?" so that Barry well, apparently I think he's like doing really well for himself.
Barry manages Andy and Amo now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, well, what a turn of events.
Yeah.
But he was doing 2 bars of fuck all for me. So yeah, he told Lee Haslam had spoken to him, and he'd said that I was exclusive to him. So they just didn't even speak to me.
Right. Okay.
So if I'd not said anything that day,
yeah.
Like, it's just like you said, these things that if that didn't happen, that wouldn't happen. And yeah, it's I think you just got to be in the right place at the right time and be sort of brave enough to put your hand up and
100%.
say something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after I've kind of got to know you and Scott, kind of driving around with you, if like I just emailed Scott one day and just went, if you ever need anybody to do anything for you, any work, because I was, let's say I'd failed university spectacularly at that point.
Maybe university failed you, Ben.
Well, yeah, I think that was my fault. And I was just looking at what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And if I'd not done that, I could be doing absolutely anything. I have no idea what it would be. But from that, you were just at that point just about to set the like the online record shop up.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you used to fill that sack and fill in all them. You had to fill all the slips in, didn't you? For the.
And I still do it now.
Jesus Christ. Well, it's good to see it worked out for you.
It certainly did work out. Yeah, lots of them. But yeah, so that's it. If you don't kind of put yourself in that situation, then you never know what's going to happen. Definitely.
And because you were already sort of DJing locally when you started with us, weren't you? And
yeah, so I mean, I've been, I mean, with one of my friends at school when we were like 14, 15, we bought like an old mobile disco setup. So we were doing like discos for family members and things like that. And then as we got a bit older, I just got heavily into dance music. So I was DJing, I had a set of decks at home. And then, yeah, I was doing a little bit of stuff before I moved to Leeds. And then, do you remember Taz that used to work for Barry from Good Grief a little bit? He used to sell tickets.
Yeah.
So yeah, I met Taz at my kind of first year of university. Then the second year we lived together, and he just introduced me to everybody, because anybody that was in Leeds, because he sold tickets for Sunday Central, for Good Grief and things like that. And from that, I then started to do. And he knew people in Sheffield, so I DJ'd at Sunday Mass for a little bit, and then did stuff for Good Grief. Did a DJ competition with Amber actually at Phillips Park Hall in Good Grief, and started doing more stuff like that. So by the time I'd met you, I was doing that. I was DJing a fair bit by that point.
Yeah.
Just anywhere that I possibly could. For free everywhere. It was just a case of I absolutely loved doing it. So like I said to you when I kind of offered to drive, I was like, I'm going here anyway.
Yeah.
We just drove everywhere every weekend. We were just going all over the country. So
yeah,
it was it was a good point in my life. It was good. It was good fun.
Yeah, definitely good times. Yeah. And I sort of felt, I don't know if this was just me, but like with Vicious Circle, it felt like obviously it was me, you, Scott, and then Kate was involved at some point, and you know, like it, but it felt like it was us against the world, you know, like because we didn't have the backing that, you know, obviously Tidy got the backing of Media Factory, Nucleus had got the backing of whatever they were, you know, they were part of some other big
Media Records, weren't they, which are huge.
Yeah, but we were just, you know, homegrown, like just running it ourselves. But we sort of had, or at least I felt, I mean, I could be wrong, but it felt like we, you know, we got more, some of the other hard labels, whether it be, I can't even think what the other labels were, but like Cacti, obviously amazing tracks, but it just felt like we had, I think we were doing more because we did the events and merchandise, and it's like we had more of a profile than some of the other more underground labels.
Definitely.
But yeah, just like a real, like it's only because when you're doing it at the time, you don't really think about what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? Or even you think about what you're doing, but you don't appreciate what you're doing. Is what I mean. You know, and it's only like when you look back and then sort of reflect on things and think, yeah, like it was.
But it did
bananas, really.
It had a huge following. Like if you think about what the kind of the really big record labels in hard house, obviously Nucleus and Tidy and Tripoli are probably like the three that were the huge ones, and Vicious Circle is the biggest independent one out of those, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah,
because it just had it had a really good core following of people that were really into what the sound was, definitely. And it had, like you say, it had the merchandise, albums. It was doing more than just putting singles out.
Yeah.
And events and that message board as well, which I spoke to Stuart about a while ago, which was always funny.
Yeah. Some screenshots from that fucking thing. But yeah, I mean, I still remember when we it was our distribution company, Amato. Yeah. And when we said about doing an album, so like the one from the hard box, were you involved? Were you with us at that point?
No.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I remember sort of pitching the idea that we wanted to do this album, and they were like, "No, you know, it's too early. You've not been around long enough. You're not ready. You're not this. You're not that." But you know, I was like, I disagree. We're doing it. But I remember, like at the time, because we didn't want to go down the route of, you know, digitally mixing. You know, it had to be live. That was the point. And obviously, me and Farley did it, and I wanted to try and do something that had an impact on other people, like the Trade 4 and Turner de V live in Tel Aviv. You know, those albums had on me, like only a few years before. I think they came out in like 96, 97, something like that. Which is basically like just as I was getting into dance music, like I was like a late bloomer. I was, you know, just all about Metallica and Pantera. Until I mean, I would have been what? I mean, 18, 19. I started mixing when I was 19.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like well behind, you know, like most people. But yeah, I wanted to do an album that sort of had the impact on people that it had. Because I remember listening to both, you know, Trade 4, the Pete Wardman mix. That was the thing. Like me and my friends used to listen to that on repeat, you know. Turner de V live in Tel Aviv. There was another Turner de V one that we used to listen to as well. And we had a couple of random tapes. I think one of them was actually Phil Reynolds. It was like someone had bought this tape in London and then, you know, done copies of it. Yeah, there were like tracks like, you know, Incisions Beyond Motion and those stuff that we just never heard anywhere else. But I went back and listened to Trade 4 and the Turner de V. So sorry, I was at the time this is before I learned to mix, and I was just in awe of, like, it just sounded like one long track to me. I couldn't tell when one started and one finished, and when the mix was happening, I just couldn't decipher it, like, and then you listen to it now, like, oh my God, it's not even that good. Like the track selection's amazing, but some of the mixing is like a little bit, you know. But yeah, so I wanted to make sure that we did some, or not make sure, try and do something that would have that impact. And I still like if I play in New Zealand or I played South Africa last year, and 2 people came up to me and spoke to me about that album.
But it
You
was
know,
it was a proper representation of what you were. It was just like listening to you in a club. And Andy, that was the thing, because
mm,
some of the compilations, and that is the downfall of them being mixed digitally on a computer and things like that, is they're perfect.
yeah,
Like, and you don't get it. You don't get the beats phasing a little bit and everything like you do when you're mixing it live and everything like that. And it was the tempo that you'd play it in a club. It wasn't all just mixed around the tempo of the tracks originally. So it just sounded like you were listening to you and Andy in a nightclub, and that was what was so good about it.
yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I went back and listened to it just a couple of weeks ago, to sort of like refresh my memory on it. And yeah, like I think it still stands up for sure. But I
Oh,
remember because we were mixing it live, so I recorded it onto a mini disc. A mini disc, if I remember right, are longer than CD. Is that right? Have I got that right?
possibly. Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
I think because the CD is like 74 minutes, isn't it?
You can get they're 80 minutes, but you can't put 80 minutes on. You can put like 76 and it's all right.
Right. I seem to remember at the time it was 74 minutes that was the cutoff.
It
And
might have been, yeah.
but the mini discs were like 80 minutes or something like
Okay,
that.
right, yeah.
So I did the mix, got to the end, and I knew I could see it was going to run over. So then I went and because I kind of knew where I was naturally where I would drop the mixes. So then I'd have to drop a couple of tracks, earlier
A bit earlier, yeah.
and do a longer mix. And I remember the second time I did it, perfect, got to the thing, and it ran over by like, I don't know, 10 seconds or something. And I lost my shit. I was screaming and shouting. And the next day, the next door neighbor, like he saw me getting out of the car and he's like, is everything all right? He thought me and Rachel, because I was married to Rachel. So he thought I was like losing my shit with her and having
Yeah.
like a domestic. I'm like, oh no, it's just a CD. He's like, what? Like, no, you don't understand, mate. You don't understand. So anyway, ended up doing it the third time, and then that's what you got.
Yeah.
But
No, it's an absolute classic album, isn't it? It is, definitely.
thanks, Ben. Means a lot coming from you.
But it is. It's like we just when you say that you listen to kind of the TV and trade albums, we didn't. Like I do now, but at the time we didn't. We
Yeah.
listened to that, the Insomnia album, some of the Euphoria albums probably. So that the one from the hard box was the one that we always, if we went back to a party after we'd been out, that's what was always on.
Yeah, sweet. I remember me and I think it must have been it's me and Paul. You know, Pebble. You know.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. We went to Australia and or came to Australia, I should say, if I'm here. They were in Adelaide and Odyssey and all that crew. They booked like a wine tour, and because we were like super jet lagged, so I remember knocking on the hotel door and we just pretended to be, like we just lay there, and eventually they left and we just went back to sleep. And later that day they were like, oh yeah, one from the soft cocks. And that's all they called us for the rest of the trip. So then we did the I Love VC album. You were around for that, weren't you?
So the next one was the one that was just called Vicious. I was there with you, that one. So that's the one that you and Andy did, wasn't it?
Right. So we did one from the hard box, and then.
Or did we do I Love VC?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
the
Sorry,
one
I
that was
remember.
just called Vicious came next, didn't it? Because that's the one that we did. If you bought it, you got the Nick Sentience mix of Hostile. I just remember posting them all at the same time.
Right.
You got the vinyl of the Nick Sentience mix of Hostile with it if you bought it.
Right. Okay. So you'll remember this better than me, mate, because yeah.
And then we did. So at that point, I was living in the office.
Yes.
living upstairs in the office.
Yeah.
That's the best commute I've ever had.
So let's just tell people what that involves. So basically, we bought a little terraced house in Sheffield.
Yeah.
What was it? 10 Medlock Road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We bought this little terrace house. The lounge. So it was like I mean, those houses must have been like 100 years old, weren't they? They were
Oh
like,
yeah, definitely, yeah.
so you walked literally from the pavement. You walked through the door. You were in the lounge,
Yeah.
and then downstairs there was just 2 rooms. It was the lounge downstairs and the kitchen at the back.
Yeah.
And then like a really steep, narrow staircase went up to the next floor. You got a bedroom at the front, a bathroom, and a small bedroom at the back.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
then the attic was converted into like a massive room, really, with one tiny window. I remember
Yeah.
that. So the lounge was the office.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
you and Scott worked in there, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's
then
right.
obviously the kitchen at the back was the kitchen. And then so which room did you sleep in?
I was in the attic one.
Oh, in the attic, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So and then the upstairs bedroom was my office. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then we got the back bedroom was the studio. We had the decks in there,
That's right. Yeah.
and then you were in the top, right? Yeah. Okay. Um. So yeah, the working at Vicious Circle was never glamorous.
Oh no. Well,
Me and Scott started in the back bedroom of mine and Rachel's house, and then we ended up in the terrace.
yeah. But you say that. I mean, for me, it was like it was amazing. I was doing something that I was working with people that were great, and I was doing something that I absolutely loved. My life had gone from being, oh shit, what am I going to do, to this is fantastic very quickly.
But so by the time we put, because I remember we did the I Love VC album, we did that big party in Leeds.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So who I can't even remember who did the diss on the I Love VC. Is that me and you?
We did I Love VC. So
Yeah,
the Vicious one, it was basically like one from the hard box 2. So Andy did this one, you did this too,
right.
and
Yeah.
then we did.
I can't even. You'll have to send me that. I can't even. I can remember the cover because the Vicious was like, they'd like split it VICI.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But yeah, if you've got that, if you can send it me.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. And then we moved. Then we mixed. Then I'd moved and bought that house down in.
That's right. Yeah, fence. Yeah.
And we'd mixed I Love VC in my kitchen, didn't we?
Oh yeah, yeah, we did. Like I said, guys, not glamorous.
No, but that's it. But again, yeah, it was all done live. There was no. We didn't do it on the computer, but yeah, we literally mixed it in the kitchen.
Mm. And then the I Love VC party, that was me, you, Farley, Karim.
Yeah, yeah.
Did Karim turn up?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
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 But do you remember what happened with Farley?
Well, he got locked in the toilet, didn't he, behind the stage? I think it traumatized him. Probably.
He was crying and shaking when he got out, but he'd been locked in there for like an hour.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll tell the story. So
Yeah.
so Farley gets to the club. You know, it's the night was amazing, wasn't it? Like
Oh yeah,
packed, like it was, yeah, real good. And so Farley gets there, puts his bag behind the DJ box, standing around having a chat. And then the next thing, Farley's supposed to be on in 5 minutes, and somebody, might have even been you, but could have been Kate, I don't know, came up with like, where's Farley? I'm like, I don't know, I've seen him. I was talking to him a minute ago. Can't find him anywhere. I'm going up, I'm thinking, has he been kicked out? I went up to the bouncers, like, have you kicked anyone out? Like, no. Keep looking for him. Someone had to, was it, I don't know if it was you or Justin Bourne play that night as well?
Possibly, yeah, because we did 2, didn't we? So I'm just trying to think what the.
I remember, I think if Justin Bourne was there, I think he stepped in and played for Farley. And then, anyway, 45 minutes into Farley's set, I mean, he was just like he disappeared into thin air, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I'm backstage and I just saw like a, not a light move, but like something move against the light, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it turned out there was a secret toilet thing that he'd somehow found, gone into, pulled the door to, but there was no handle on the inside. And because the music's so loud, he's banging on the thing, screaming, "Let me out!" And no one could hear him.
No, but it really in that venue in Stylus, because it was Leeds university student union.
Right.
It was clearly, I mean, that venue is amazing. It really is an amazing club. At that point, it wasn't set up for hard house because the sound system, like you just see drinks just going straight across.
Right. Yeah.
Like it was loud. Everything was rattling in there. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Yeah. So he, but when he came out, yeah, I mean, he was like literally, it wrecked him. Yeah. He had to take a few minutes before he could play. Yeah. But yeah, bananas. So then and again, I've no idea when this was, but we did that tour of, well, we started in New Zealand, didn't we? And then went to Australia.
So I think that was before that.
Right.
I think that was before that party because it was not long after. I mean, I actually think it's not long after I started working for you. I was definitely living in Sheffield.
Yeah.
And because there was a few things. One of the things that happened was we were doing the shop and we were posting a lot of. There was a lot of orders going out every day. There was a lot of records, obviously all the Vicious Circle stuff, as well as everything else from Amato that was hard house and some techno stuff. So there was quite a lot of orders being shipped. And Scott was like, right, well, we can help push you as a DJ. And Scott got loads of promo CDs made up. I mean, it must have been like 4,000 or 5,000 of them because they were just everywhere. That went in all the orders, and we shipped them out to Scott. Obviously, had a database of promoters and stuff like that, and posted them all to them. And from that's where I started to DJ a lot more. That's where Frantic got hold of that, and they rang me and said, "You want to come and play?" and things like that. And so that was probably the thing that really helped that happen. And I'm fairly sure Christian and the guys at System 6 got hold of that as well.
Right.
By Scott. And that's when you were going to go out there. And yeah, you said, did I want to go as well?
Right.
So I just went to Auckland and then Adelaide. But I think we did 2 gigs in Adelaide because we did the winter Enchanted Forest. It was in like a big school gym.
That's right. Yeah. I remember.
And then there was a nightclub one that was like the weekend after. I can't remember
what
it was called. I can't.
So, but when we went, was it me, you, and Kate, or was it just me and you?
Did Kate come as well?
What?
No,
because
it's very hazy.
Well, the reason I thought Kate was there is because there was a time where we went to get off the flight, and I said, "I'm not getting off."
I think Kate might have been there.
Or did we go twice?
No. I've more than one, but we only did that one where we went and did like the big Enchanted Forest thing once together like that.
Right.
Or did
and the reason I think Kate was there is because I said, "Look, I'm not getting off the flight. I've not got a visa, and I'm not going through because when I went to New Zealand the year before, they were like, don't ever come back to New Zealand without a visa."
But then she was there because that's exactly what happened.
Right. So then and then do you remember someone got on the flight, didn't they? They went, "Oh, they've sorted it all out. The visa's waiting for you. Ask for Jenny. She knows all about it. It's all sorted." And we were like, "Okay, then." So we got off the flight, and then we get to the desk, and I'm like, "I need to Jenny," and they're like, "She's not working today." And they sent us off into that room, didn't they, at the side? And then we sat there for like 5 hours. We were sat there.
Well, this is where it gets a bit hazy because I don't remember that being that long, but
all I remember is sorry, go on.
I'd gone straight from I've been DJing at Parlez-Vous, and I'd gone then to a party, and we'd gone to the airport.
So you freaking arse from your elbow, did you?
I don't know how long we were sat in the airport. I just remember.
Well, it could have been 5 hours. It felt like 10 minutes to you.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
Anyway, all I remember is the woman who 12 months before had said to me, "Don't come back to New Zealand without a visa." And she walked around the corner as if she'd seen me the day before. She went, "I've told you before." I'm like, honestly, I wasn't going to even get off the flight. I was going to go straight in and get a flight to Australia. I said, "This is the situation, blah, blah, blah." And they took pity on me and they said, "Right, you've got to go." And they sent us we had to go to like the
We just went to the embassy, didn't we?
Embassy the next day
in Auckland, yeah. And to be fair, it was sorted quite quickly there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fine, but it was just I always remember I told you before.
Yeah.
Okay, Mum.
Yeah, it was a that was a funny trip. Yeah, good. Well, because I'd been to that. I'd been to Parlez-Vous. So when they decided that we'd not got a visa and they swabbed every record and everything in my bag, I think the machine lit up like a Christmas tree.
A Christmas tree. So, and then because obviously we suffered the death of vinyl.
Yeah.
With the old MP3s and all that. So when did, because that happening and then me sort of, stepping away from Vicious Circle and you taking over, like I can't, like what number Vicious Circle were we up to when you sort of?
It's like 56, something like that. It's around. So there's Defective Audio, ASBO, and then there's one that me and Maddox did called Gravity, and I Need It. They were the very last ones. And there was the Tin Rib one, Something Heavier, that he did with Tick from New Zealand, and Justin Bourne, Catapult, and there was an Andy Farley one called Let It Be, and what was it, Unwanted. Those ones all got to the point of having the test presses done, and Amato went bankrupt.
Right.
So we got the test presses of those. They'd all been paid for.
They'll be worth a mint now.
Well, we actually sold them on eBay, didn't we? We sold them all.
Right.
And not at the time of it all happening, but afterwards. Because at that point, it had moved because Kate had obviously started the DJ agency as well. And the office was then in the centre of Sheffield.
Yeah, on Leopold Street or something.
Yeah, that's right. So at that point, I wasn't working for you anymore. I'd moved because as vinyl died, obviously what I was doing for you just wasn't sustainable anymore, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Posting records to people was all right if people are buying them, but if they're not, it's not a thing. So I'm trying to think how long it was, because at that point, I'd met Maria, and we were I was driving over to Manchester once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And we were kind of working out what we were going to do. And Maria was looking at jobs in Sheffield. And then eventually she got a decent job in Manchester. I was just like, well, I may as well just sell my house and move to Manchester.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, when Kate had the office in the centre of Sheffield with you, I think I was living in Manchester by then. But yeah, in fact, I definitely was, because when the distributor went bankrupt, I drove, because they'd moved up to Blackburn, Amato were, and I drove up there to go and get all the stock.
Ah, right.
I went up there to go and get anything, and I remember getting there, and there was Mark Knight from Toolroom, one of the house labels. They were all there, and a load of the hardcore labels and everything like that, all of them trying to basically just get over the fence and get in and get the stock.
Right. Yeah. I remember when, like, the MP3, like, the what's the word? Being able to go in the studio and then like play, the CD that night was amazing. But I was playing. I can't remember what club it was. It was in Leeds, and there's a track that I'd made like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before or something. And I just remember some kid, like, I had no idea who he was, but he certainly wasn't anyone that should have been having it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got that." And it just, like that realization that, like, I give, like I send the file or give a CD to maybe 3 people.
Yeah.
But then one of those 3 people, it's not their track, so they don't really care. And then they give it to 2 people, and then they care even less because they're, the more removed you get. And then all of a sudden you've got, people that should have been buying this stuff 3 weeks, like, like
Oh,
2 or 3 months
100%.
before you would even be thinking of releasing it. Like, it was just like I just remember being like, this is fucked.
But it was at the time. It was such a transition in what was going on with music, and it's the same things kind of happened again with streaming, really. But it's it it killed it completely for a lot of people, didn't it? Really, I mean, it effectively did for you, because that was the point that you kind of started doing DJing less, definitely.
Yeah.
Once the kind of once the vinyl sales really dropped off, and then when Amato went bankrupt, that was really kind of one of the big points that the vicious circle could definitely have stopped then.
But then, I mean, obviously because what's the latest Vicious Circle release now? 390 something.
Yeah, it's 389 we're on now.
Oh right, okay.
So we're getting close to that magic 400 now. That's it. We are getting there.
So when would that? When's that likely to come out?
That would be. We're probably looking at, like, when I last spoke to you about this, I'd missed 10 of the numbers out of the catalog numbers by mistake. So we're probably looking at, like, June. I got it on a spreadsheet, and I was like, well, why did it jump from 82 to 92? Because I'd missed 10 by mistake. So it's probably like June, I think.
June, okay. So yeah, I mean, we may as well talk about it now. So obviously, I've been in and done. When I came back in September, I went in the studio with Maddox and did a new track called Big Fish.
Yeah.
And then I've done the remix. So like Vicious Circle 1 was me on both sides, and then Vicious Circle 400 will be. So it's nice to still be kind of involved after all this time.
100%. Like, it's really important, because that's it. It's not there without you. That's it.
Yeah. I tell you what, really, like, being a real estate agent in Australia now, which is just like about as random as you can get. But Vicious Circle is still going. No thanks to me, but it's still going. It's still going. And Prime Mover, the gyms that I set up, they're still going. Again, it's nothing to do with me now, but it's just nice that these things are still,
Yeah, but
still there.
If it wasn't for you, it wouldn't still be going, because when the distributor went bankrupt, it effectively stopped, didn't it, for a bit, because there was no way of doing vinyl releases or anything like that. And then we just went to go and do a gig for Kevin Kerrigan in Ireland. I just remember we flew from Doncaster Airport, because that was open when we were doing those. And I just remember us talking about it, and I was like, well, what is happening with it? Because what do you want to do? And all I said was, look, I'll carry it on if you want to, because you were just like, look, I've got the gym now. This is not a thing I can focus on while we're doing doing this. And that was it. That was the conversation. It was like, yeah, if you want to do it, fire away and do it. And that was it. You could have just gone, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want it to be there anymore. And then it wouldn't. It would have stopped then, definitely.
Yeah. Funny,
I still remember that day, because I remember going to the gig and coming back. And when I got back home, all of my mates were in my house. There were about 20 people having a party in my house, and I'm not.
Oh, right. Was Maria there?
Oh, yeah, she was there.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
They don't just gate crash your house.
No.
Right, okay. And then what? And then, you just remember it because your house was.
I just remember them. I just remember that being the same weekend. I remember us going to Doncaster,
right.
But that happened as well. I remember that's what. Why it's in my brain, definitely.
Right. I was thinking about Kevin Kerrigan yesterday. What's the date today? Whenever the 17th of March is St. Patrick's Day, isn't it? Was that? Yeah. What is it today? The 19th. 18th.
It's the 18th.
So it was yesterday. Yeah. But I was just thinking about him. I was telling my girls about how when I was doing my personal training diploma, and there was a night where I finished the course, 4 or 5 o'clock, whatever it was, and then everyone went home, and the next day we had an exam the next morning, But I had to drive from Leeds to Manchester, fly to Dublin, DJ until I think I did like 11 till 1, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then back to the hotel for like an hour,
Yeah.
maybe 2, and then back to the airport, flew back to Manchester, drove through rush hour to Leeds, and just got in time to do this exam.
Yeah.
But that would have been St. Patrick's Day. That's what I went over for.
Okay. Yeah.
So when it was, because we were driving down the road and there was some guy dressed as like a leprechaun at the bus stop, and the Nevaeh's like, "Why is he dressed like that?" And I said, "Oh, it's St. Patrick's Day, that's why." So, but yeah, Kevin Kerrigan, what a character!
I saw him in Ibiza last year. He'd been working for Defected Records out there.
Ah, all right.
Yeah,
How's he doing?
He'd been there all summer.
Yeah, I remember me and Scott and Paul and Johnson went to Dublin for a Metallica concert.
Right. Okay.
And obviously, I knew Kevin pretty well by that stage, and knew how hilarious he is. They were just like, you know, when someone's so funny, they kind of like, or like so in your face.
Yeah.
You don't, and they were a bit like, by the end of the experience, they could see what I could see, but at first they were like, "What the fuck?" And he was showing them this picture, how he'd got into he was busting for the bathroom, and he got there, and he's like, "I got there a second too late," and then he showed him this picture of this toilet bowl. It was horrendous. And we were having lunch, you know. But yeah,
Oh dear.
such a I remember the first time I went to Dublin and playing, and he's just there. You remember he used to do that bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
He's such a good guy. But, well, I'm glad he's doing well.
No, it was great to see him, because I've not seen him. I've not seen him for ages, since the last gig that you did there with him when we all went over, and then
Right.
And yeah, I've not seen him since then. So it was great to see him, definitely.
Yeah. So, so you're 42 now.
I am, yes.
And you've got 3 kids. That's right, isn't it?
I have 3 kids. Yeah.
Is it a girl and 2 boys?
So yeah, Annie, William, and Thomas. So Annie's
And how old's Annie now?
She's 13. She'll be 14 in May.
Right. So you had kids before I did, then, didn't you? Yeah. Because Nevaeh, she's 13 this year. Yeah. Have you found fatherhood?
Oh, it's been testing at times, but no, it's great. They're amazing. They're good fun. The stuff they come out with is just hilarious, because there's no filter, so they just tell you how it is.
Definitely,
no, it's great. It's great. They're good kids. We don't have too much trouble from them yet.
Yep. Yeah. But the thing is, I always think if you bring your kids up right, then you shouldn't have too much trouble.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure they'll. Well, you know what? I know what I was like as a teenager, and I wasn't a complete arsehole, but I definitely wasn't the easiest. But I don't know. I just think they live in a completely different world now, don't they?
Yeah.
I know what the things that we were doing, that I was doing as a teenager and things like that. If people had got a video camera in their pocket, I might have thought twice about doing it.
Yeah. Now 24 hours CCTV.
Everything's just immediately available for somebody to put on the internet, isn't it? So it's they live in a very different world to we did.
A bit like them MP3s.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, I was talking to someone last year, and I was saying about how, like, I'm obviously super removed from everything now, but like from what my sort of limited vantage point, you are like the backbone of Hard House now. That's how I see it. Like, you're so involved in the distribution of everything, and you know, like you I don't know, you just seem like, if it wasn't for you, I don't think the scene would still be doing what it's doing.
I'm sure if I'd not done some of the things I've done, somebody else would have done it. That's the thing.
Oh, don't talk like that, Ben.
But what? I mean, I don't know. It's like, I just think, again, it's like this. The things that have happened to me and I've done is all about putting yourself in the right situation. So at the point that I'd moved to Manchester, I think actually it was Kate said, you should ring Nick Denton, because he might want he might be able to give you some work, because I was in Manchester, and I was like,
Yeah, that's right, because they were, yeah.
So Nick was running Toolbox Distribution. So he was, once Amato had gone under, Nick took on a lot of the labels and did them on P&D deals. So would package and distribute, would basically pay for the releases. And Dave Owens worked for him for a bit. And then, I just rang him up, and he was like, yeah, just come and have a trial. We'll see what we can do. And then I worked for Nick for a few years in his office in Salford. And we kind of, I'm trying to think where it was. It was at a gig. It might have even been at the Emporium. The vinyl sales was still like starting to kind of really drop off at that point. If you were doing 300 of them, then you were doing well. So it's just not I know now from kind of what you've got to sell to make it worthwhile. It's not a viable business like that.
No.
So Nick had also been doing CDs and various other things, but I had a conversation with Paul James. I'm pretty sure it was at the Emporium, but it could have been any other club in the UK, I guess. And I just remember him talking to me about some of the other download stores like Track It Down and Beatport and everything like this, because it was just at the point that hardstyle was getting much bigger in the kind of sphere of the harder music, and they just weren't supporting hard house anymore. And Paul had also, I'm sure Paul James has got like an inbuilt royalty alarm, because he knows that something's not right.
His spidey sense is tingling if someone's playing a track 300 miles away.
It's fair play, because he basically went, Track It Down had never paid PRS a penny.
Right.
And he was like, I think he kind of took the hump with it, really, because there's some things that he'd done, like Paul's a writer on The Dawn, the Tony DeVito track, The Dawn, but he's only a writer. He doesn't get any of the sales royalties. All he gets is the publishing. So he was like, well, The Dawn's done like thousands of downloads on Track It Down, and I've never had a penny because they're not paying them properly. So he's like, you should set up a store. You should set up a download store at Toolbox. So that's what Nick and I did. We set up a little kind of download store that just dealt with some of the hard house stuff that wasn't being supported by the other download stores anymore, because it wasn't cool. Hardstyle had become the harder music across Europe and America and everything like that. So that's all they really focused on. So
that's still going, hardstyle.
Yeah. I mean, it's still big in Europe, definitely. But it was really difficult for us to get our releases featured on any of these sites anymore, which really does impact the sales quite a lot.
Yeah.
So we just set it up, and we just set up a really kind of basic download store that if you did the releases exclusive with Toolbox for like 4 weeks, we'd give you, if they were sold for £1.50, you got £1. So that was, it was kind of double what you were going to get from anybody else. And all the hard house labels just moved over to it, basically. And it was, once they stopped doing vinyl distribution at Toolbox, it just became this more digital side of it.
Right.
And that was my job, basically. And then Nick decided he just didn't want to do anything anymore. He didn't want to do any of that kind of business side of it. I think doing P&D deals with people and packaging and actually paying for all the vinyl releases as the distributor put a lot of stress on him.
Yeah.
So he stopped doing that and basically said, look, I'm going to close all this down. If you want to buy the name of the kind of the download business bit off me, then do that. And I put a business plan together and did that. And then that was 14 years ago.
Wow.
I think. And yeah, it's still going now. It's still going, and it's kind of just trying to support the hard house labels, really.
Yeah. It's a little bit like the just as you were telling the story then, like when Kate set up Red Management, you remember, like, and then we all just went, I mean, I was, like, that all came about me and Farley just moaning because Most Wanted shafted us again, that, like we both had gigs cancelled that weekend. And I just remember saying, like, a management company only makes money if the DJs are working. Like I said, you do a better job, and pointed at Kate, and literally the next day her and Kelly had set it up. And then, so I left, Farley came, you came, Maddox
Yeah.
came. So literally, like the first 2 weeks, she'd got, you know, the bulk of the hard house talent on road
100%.
management, and then obviously with you with Toolbox, like all the labels move across and
And
away
they
you
did.
go.
They only like there are very big, like you say, there's big comparisons there, because again, it probably wouldn't have happened if Track It Down had paid PRS, because Paul would never have said to me that conversation.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
eventually, that's actually what bankrupted Track It Down, because PRS came after them for
Right,
a
okay.
significant amount of money,
Right.
and it closed eventually because of it. But yeah, that's it. And it's if you treat people fairly, then they all support it, which is what I've tried to do with it as much as possible. It's
Well, mate, if you're 14 years in and no one says a bad word about Ben Stevens,
no,
you're
well,
doing
hopefully not. I'm my biggest problem now is that time is so limited with kids and everything like that. And then I've since started working for Tidy as well, so I started doing that like 7 years ago. So it's now spinning plates. Luckily, the download store is quite automated, so it does a lot of stuff itself. But it's I just need another one of me, really.
Yeah. Well, I could do with the same, but
See if I can train
like you're sorry, a trained monkey.
one of the kids up if I can.
Oh, train your kids. Is it a trained monkey? But yeah, like with all the running around, like, I mean, I've got it's a blessing and a curse, but like me and Kelly aren't together. So I have my girls 1 week on, 1 week off. So the weeks where I don't have the girls, I'll do, 12-hour days, 14-hour days, whatever. But then the weeks where I've got them, I've got to get them to school, and then I pick them up. And then, like, Nevaeh's got soccer Monday and Thursday. She has acting on Wednesday. Eden's got OzTac on Wednesday. And, like, it's just this. And luckily I've got, some of the other parents are friends, so I can juggle with that, because you can't be in two places at once, can you?
No, it is hard. Definitely, it's difficult. It's trying to get them to everything that they do in the evenings and do all the school and everything like that. Yeah, it is difficult.
Who'd have thought it, Ben, when we were in that terraced house running vicious circle that we've been moaning one day about running kids around to activities?
Yeah, but that's life, isn't it? But no, it's good.
Yeah. Well, Ben, like I said, no one's got a bad word. I certainly don't have a bad word to say about Ben Stevens. You've always been an absolute gem for me. So thanks for taking the time. I'm sure we'll do this again. Pretty much everyone I've spoken to, well, almost everyone I've spoken to on here, I've said I want to get on, in a few years' time to revisit where we're at. And I'm sure there's more stories.
Definitely.
Try and think of another Andy Farley story to tell.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a really funny Captain Tinrib story. We'll do that one next time.
Ah, nice. Yeah. But no, I mean, I'd just like to say thank you to you as well, because everything I'm doing now hinges on me meeting you and Scott, really. Like
it's a good job I was doing 128 miles an hour that night, isn't it?
There you go. That's it. But it does, because it's like I said before, it's funny how things work out. But if that hadn't have happened and you hadn't have been setting the record shop up and all that kind of stuff, I do not know what I'd be doing now. I still would have tried to have done it, but who knows? Who knows? So yeah, thank you very much.
Well, pleasure. Thanks, mate.
All good. No worries.
I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, sound. See you later.
Cheers, see you, pal.
See you in a bit.
This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.